We've always defined ourselves by the ability to overcome the impossible, and we count these moments. These moments when we dare to aim higher, to break barriers, to reach for the stars, to make the unknown known. We count these moments as our proudest achievements, but we lost all that. Or perhaps we've just forgotten that we are still pioneers, and we've barely begun, and that our greatest accomplishments cannot be behind us, that our destiny lies above us. Cooper, Interstellar.
Sixteen or 17 or so, I'd have to stand outside the teacher's lounge all break, all lunch, because of just my inattentiveness and stuff like that, and just not doing homework, that kind of thing. Structure first, so kind of structure it out first to try and get a feel for it, because if I can't get it right the first time, the lyrics just do not come to my head. Something that's just whatever, very cookie cutter. He wants something different. He wants something that can come out of left field. He has a really great ear for music.
He does.
And he's someone who really tries.
Hello, everyone. This is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of Surprise Cast. Oh, who joined us in the studio? Who is this special person? What's going on in his mind in terms of creativity, art, music, film, whatever? He's here in the studio. Let us bring him in. It is Etienne from the band Whitelands. How are you?
Hello. Hi. I'm great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Could you please tell the listeners your full name, what you do in the band, and where you are podcasting from?
So, my name is Etienne Quartey-Papafio. I'm the rhythm guitarist, singer, and songwriter for the band Whitelands. And I am podcasting from London, in West London, actually, in my house.
London. What a special city, yeah?
Sorry, it's a very beautiful place, yeah.
How long you lived there for?
Well, when I was younger, I was raised in Ghana for a little bit, but I was born here, and I think so far it's been about 19 years I've lived here. Yeah.
Did I mention to you that I studied in London?
No, you didn't. Where did you study?
The University of London Union.
Wow. It makes sense from the jumper that you're wearing. I thought you just had it as just casual, London merch,
A lot of my friends teased me going through high school and college, and I'm actually Colombian.
Oh.
But they would call me an Anglophile because of all the music I listen to. I mean, essentially, New Order, The Cure, The Chameleons, Sex Pistols, The Clash, you name it, The Beatles. Yeah, a lot of that music that I listen to from England.
There's lots of good music from here, so it makes sense,
Oh, yeah. So, we hear of these hot spots, places that are really emerging or surging with bands, a vibe. Like right now in San Francisco, we have a vibe. It's like the jangle pop vibe going on. So we've got some bands like Chime School, The Umbrellas, Reds, Pinks, and Purples, just killing it right now. So what about London? I know there's a band coming up, Roses. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
No, unfortunately.
Any bands out of London specifically that are kind of getting people's attention?
Bands out of London? That is a great question. I think Last Dinner Party have been quite popular recently. They've been popping off a lot. They're kind of baroque, kind of rock kind of thing.
Yeah.
And really, there's Rachel Chinori. She's a lot more popular with her stuff. She's really good. She's very fantastic. I think she's 27. And she's going on tour right now, actually, with Sabrina Carpenter.
Hey.
Yeah, and one of my friends is playing bass for Rachel Chinori, so she'll just be around with them. It's really crazy.
What about how's like the nightlife, that kind of culture? Because when I was there in '94, it was
Hmm.
kind of the height of Britpop,
Mm.
or maybe in the middle of it.
Hmm.
And the nightclubs were just riddled with people, and that style of music was really going off.
London is very different now. It's kind of like everybody's kind of on survival mode at the moment. So things like nightclubs, they're all just closing down one after the other. Music venues, they're all just closing down.
Oh shit.
It's yeah, it's quite fucked. Like even the Moth Club, like people had to petition just to keep its license because there were people that would move into an area that they know would have a venue that plays music late at night, then start complaining to the council that they're playing music late at night, which makes no sense, you know?
Right.
And like if you had money to move anywhere, you probably wouldn't move right next to a music venue and be complaining about, you know, that's what a music venue does. And yeah, lots of clubs are just kind of dying out at the moment. I think it's like a lot of the government doesn't want to put any funding into music like it should be. There's a cost of living crisis, and it's it's becoming scarce to even have a place to perform, let alone a place to be bringing out new music, you know? And radio stations themselves, they're even kind of being reshuffled around, like BBC Six, like where my band was played a lot, is just being restructured completely. Like instead of hosts having their own hour slot to do something, now they're getting a joint slot with someone else, or it's just all moved around. It's awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was a section of London I used to visit. It's out by Kentish Town. And again, this is in 1994. It might be different now. But I remember that seemed to be the hotbed for dub
Mm.
and jungle music.
Mm.
I don't know if that still exists, but are there still pockets of London that have that kind of theme, that genre that is blossoming?
I guess mostly in like East London, that's where you find a lot more music kind of coming about. There's like nothing in West, but East is where there's lots of DIY communities. There's lots of venues like making their own kind of nights, putting on their own shows. And it's kind of like the underground is making a resurgence to kind of like fight against the closure of everything, you know?
Yeah.
Like there'll be cafes that like double as nightclubs or venues. Like I was at one recently actually with one of my friends performing, like half of it's a cafe and the other half is just a venue. And it's like a community space. And I think like for a period of time, there was a lot of dub and like jungle and stuff coming out of like Peckham, Brixton, that area, because there was a lot of, immigrants coming in from, where is it? Jamaica, West Indies, that kind of stuff now. But like over time, things have changed as well. I think a lot of people are getting pushed out of those communities too, like the people that would be heralding this development of music.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being kind of like I said, the cost of living crisis, they're being shifted around. All that history is just being moved somewhere else. So you find like other parts of the UK, like further up north or something, they're bringing there's their own reemergence of those genres, but it's the kids doing it this time. When I was younger, when I was like 19, which wasn't that long ago, actually, I was going to like squat raves at the time where there'll be a group of kids that have a sound speaker, like just a speaker system. They go to an abandoned warehouse in like Bishop Stortford and like Hertfordshire or something. They'd post a location online on like Instagram, and there's like over 1,000 people or so. We just had to start moving right away to get the train there and just go into that empty warehouse, and they would just like dance and like party all night. But, it's like, I think when there's that much like pushback from like, or rather a lack of development from the government, there are people that will find their own way. They'll try and make things happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing from you is that things have changed and things have stayed the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Etienne is a remarkable musician whose work is a vibrant tapestry woven from the rich cultural influences of both Ghana and London. His upbringing in a multicultural environment gave him a unique perspective on the power of music as a universal language. His distinctive craft, both as a singer and songwriter, resonates with authenticity and emotional depth. Etienne is not just a musician, but he's also a bridge between cultures, using his art to connect people and celebrate the beauty of diversity. Let us continue to cheer him on. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
I think this thing with pressure makes diamonds, like you force people out, they'll come back stronger. They'll find a way, because there's a love for it. There's truly a passion for it. And this is what keeps people going.
Yeah. You had mentioned Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a part of West Africa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are some memories of the place for you?
I just can't remember too much from Ghana. I do remember being at the beach. That's one thing I do remember. It's my memory is all fuzzy from there. And it was quite dirty at the beach too, but that's because of the government, And
how old were you?
I think I was about 4 or 5. And I think when people hear stories of the beach, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be so fun. It's going to be bright and sunny. It's going to be beautiful. And I was a kid. I remember being really hyped about it, but I was so disappointed. That's one thing I definitely do remember. I think something I do miss about Ghana is the food. They had really good food there,
Yeah, tell me about the food.
Oh, there's this place. What was it called? I really can't remember what it was called, but it was this, it's very popular around Ghana. It's they do fried rice, fried chicken, and kind of local cuisine, that kind of thing. Whenever my mom's going back, I'm always just hey, can you get me something from there? I haven't had their food in so long, just bring it on a plane with you. God, I can't even remember the name. It's been literally over 20 years since I've been to Ghana.
It's a massive place.
It is huge, yeah.
It is huge. Now, do you want to go back at all?
I think it would be nice to visit, maybe once or twice, just to see how things have been since, I was there as a kid. But even then, going from somewhere as a kid to an adult, so much has changed that you'd be this is going to be a completely new experience for me,
Yeah.
But I really want to see how music is developing there and what's the local stuff, because the local popular songs and music is high life. That's why I remember listening to traditional weddings and parties, funerals. And I'm thinking has it changed? Is there this new emergence of genres there? Has metal, punk, and that kind of stuff been introduced to Ghana as their scene? I think that's what I'm curious about.
So with your family, did they have any religious affiliation and ties to Christianity or anything like that?
Yeah, my mom, she's we went to Catholic school. I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school for my primary, my secondary school, and also my sixth form. And I went to Catholic church when I was growing up, and what would you call it? And also as a country, a lot of West Africa is very religious, it's kind of that tie-in, yeah. But I think it's more kind of evangelical Christianity back there, So it really depends on the country you're in, what denomination's more popular. But I guess for the school that I wanted to get into was kind of because I went to a state school, I wasn't privately educated or something, So a lot of those ones, they'll be to get in, you need to be this kind of denomination or believe in this faith. And those are the schools I went to. So they were entry was required on faith.
So I've never been to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the listeners and me something that is totally misunderstood, that you might say something like the media has gotten this wrong, or it's portrayed Ghana in this way, when in fact it's not. So anything you want to share there?
I guess I have to choose my words carefully.
Sure.
I guess a lot of the media does portray like Africa as very like poor and very, very like uneducated and very like backwards. And the thing is as well is like a lot of Africans I know, a lot of West Africans, they're very like hardworking, very smart people. And, it's like there'll be moms doing like they're raising their kids, they're going to like my mom, for example, she's from Ghana and she had to raise me, my older brother, and she was a nurse at the same time. And she was like studying, she was doing all these things. And that is like the complete norm for just like an African like parent is like they'd have to be, they excel at what they do. And I think a lot of the media portrays it as a place where it's like a lack of things. And it's like a lot of people there are not uneducated. They're very, very smart people. I love the NHS here. And I think that goes, that's the same for a lot of like other ethnic backgrounds. Like a lot of like the NHS is just held up by nurses and doctors from like the Philippines, Nigeria, Ghana.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the governments will be also restricting how those people can come in when they like make up such a big part of that workforce. And they claim that they are not like, important or skilled when they are the most skilled and they're like the most capable. I find that just like absolutely dreadful.
So with your upbringing, do you find that you are now in a position of exploring more of your religious background, or have you kind of pushed that aside and become more political? Which one seems to outmuscle the other one?
I was actually talking to someone about this recently, and I guess like with like, with religion, like sometimes it kind of leans like very right politically, it's very conservative. And I'm just not a conservative person. I'm very like lefty. And a lot of my friends are queer and a lot of them are also Muslim as well. And there was this kind of like rift between me and religion because like with all my friends being queer and also like my religion as well, like, well, not necessarily my religion, but other people in religion saying like, it's like, it's a sin, it's evil, yada, 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 that kind of stuff. It was just like, and it was kind of like, it kind of did this rift where it's just like, I care about my friends and, sorry, my brain just like went there. I was just like, how can people like keep religion and also keep this like, sentiment towards being left, and like liberal? And they shared with me their own experiences with a religion where they built their own private relationship with it. It doesn't need to be defined by like a collective, it's their own personal relationship. And I thought that was really like beautiful. So I think religion for me started kind of making a comeback as well, like a little bit when I like heard. And Kendrick Lamar actually was the one that kind of inspired like a bigger change towards like coming back towards religion because there's this graduation show he was at and there were a lot of kids there and he was talking about kind of like godliness and he was like, you gotta have your own like I talk to God like he's my friend, he's like my homie, like I'll be sitting on a park bench and I'll be talking, that kind of thing. And I thought that was really like just a beautiful way to put it, where it's like it's a personal, private relationship. It's not like some bullshit mega church where there's like flying fucking reindeers like in the audience or something. I was just like, it's like something that doesn't need to be perceived to be something that's like real. I guess as in like you don't need to be doing it to be, to show that you're of like faith or something like that. I feel like, yeah, I actually kind of really get that and I really respect that. So I kind of like my battle with religion stopped in that way. And it was my own personal thing where I was like, I can talk to God and like, I can ask for help. And I think spirituality, like it doesn't necessarily have to be like Catholic or like, or like some sort of spiritual, like it can be any religion, but spirituality as a whole is kind of like talking to yourself in a way. It's like, because I'm someone when growing up who had very like, I was awful to myself in my head. And when you talk to God is like, is a thing where it's like, you can't be awful to yourself. It's like you show compassion because, I was reading this book actually by C.S. Lewis. It's called The Four Loves.
Oh, wow.
And
Tell me.
yeah, and I think there's a passage in the book where he talks about four different things, and he talks about various forms of love. And there's this one called need love. And he talks about like with need love, when you're speaking to God, there's only one way you can speak to God, and it's to ask for something. And he says that there's always going to be a power difference there, and it won't be like that is always going to be like this, like whereas God on top and you like asking for God, you're pleading, and it's like you're compassioning. It's like you're asking for compassion.
Yes.
And when you ask for something, when you ask for help, that is you showing compassion to yourself to know that you're going through something and you want someone to help you, and when you start speaking to God that way, you start praying and you start show more compassion for yourself, kind of like the negative self-talk kind of stopped, Sorry that if I rambled a bit there.
You are not rambling. You are providing the nutrients for this conversation. Yeah, you mentioned that you have a lot of queer friends.
Yeah, of course.
How did that come about?
I think it really happens a lot with music, It's like something that's very like self-expressive and very, it's like it's against the norm of like just playing music inherently is like arts, it's left is liberal, that kind of stuff. I know that it might not seem political to be like, artsy, but it's just like it kind of is.
Yeah.
And when you're in those communities, it's just like people find them spaces, there's communities, and there's a lot of like people in the scene that like are queer, that are doing a lot of good work for the community, like just arts and like keeping it alive. A lot of art really cannot survive like without it. Because something that's very like interesting about the queer community is like they will organize, they will get together and they will support each other. And they are kind of like out of necessity and kind of like survival, they will do that because it's important for like their survival, because they want a place to be represented that's safe and ways they can like, also showcase themselves. And to do that, they've kind of like been forced to like kind of like organize, And when I was around 17, 18, when I started Whitelands, like there was this place called DIY Space for London, and it's kind of like queer run, like safe space for people to like start music. It's like a lot of people from working class backgrounds, they'd be like going to a 9 to 5 in a day, and then they'll be doing sound that night. They'll be building workshops. And like I've taught a workshop there for pedals as well, and they want to organize. They want to like build this community of people where you don't need record labels. It's not like you're fighting against each other. You're trying to make things work. You're trying to build things up. And well, else you wouldn't be where we are without that scene.
Right.
And it's sad that like the whole like space kind of like it just ended up kind of like splitting apart, and like kind of like it's not as big as it once was. And like Decolonize Fest as well, like really important to the scene. Like people like Big Journey as well. They were like, I think without them, that Slow Dive tour literally would not have happened, because like we needed to borrow their gear. We didn't have amps. We didn't have like a drum kit or anything like that. Yeah. So it's just lots of support. And that's how like the music scene can keep thriving. And I think a lot more people need to try and like help and like do things, but it's like it's awful now. It's like everybody's working, they're like burnt out, they have to survive, so it's just very hard to keep those scenes thriving.
Okay, so you had mentioned at the age of 17, 18 when you started Whitelands.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a little background as to how music formed and shaped your life at a younger age.
Well, I kind of started bass guitar around when I was 15.
All right.
And I was just like, in like my Catholic school, I was just practicing with some friends in the drum room, they were both drummers. And, there's only one drum kit, and they couldn't, there can only be one person behind the kit at a time. So I was just like, what goes well with drums, bass. So picked up the bass guitar, I begged my mum for it, and she bought me a bass guitar. and I just kept practicing by myself. I practiced with them. I just kept, just kind of teaching myself because I like my family were like working class. I was just raised by just my mom. I don't have the money for like anything like lessons or a teacher, so I just had to teach myself through YouTube. Then when I was around 17, I think I wanted to just start making songs for real. So I picked up guitar and just kind of taught myself that as well. I had a teacher at the time. I didn't do music as a subject for secondary school. So one of my teachers, he was just always around. He was kind of like mentoring me with bass. Like he'd sneak me like a bass book or stuff, something, and I just like practice at home. And there was one time, it was really funny. Like everybody was doing their GCSEs,
Yeah.
and when people were doing well in the subject, they'd get like a certificate for it, like in their subject. I didn't do music at the time, but I got a certificate for GCSE music. And I remember when I was walking out, everybody in the audience was like looking at me like, what? He doesn't even do music. It's quite funny. It's hilarious.
Is this teacher
Mhm.
that was supportive of your desires still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. I think he's still teaching music at another like school or something. I got in touch with him recently and invited him to come like watch us Hammersmith Apollo, but I think he was busy with, teaching his actual kids,
Yeah.
I think his job is done with me. He doesn't need to worry about me anymore. But he says like he was just very happy that, I've gone further up in life with music.
All right. So you're getting interested in these plucky instruments and, percussive instruments. What bands were really getting your attention?
So when I was 17, it was a lot of like kind of pop punky stuff. Like I think if you go to like the earliest post on the Whitelands Instagram page, it'll be like this band. Fuck, I forget their name, which is awful of me. But they had a song called I Love the Way She Said LA. It was Spitalfield. Yeah, they're from the States. I was playing a game, was it Watch Dogs? And the song came on the radio. It's awesome. It's so fucking cool. And it's just me playing bass guitar with two of my friends in secondary. And I think I was really into that pop punk kind of stuff as well, because I was coming from a lot of JRPGs, a lot of video games and that kind of stuff, like Sonic the Hedgehog, you had Crash 40. They had those like driving rhythms. I love anime and like anime intros. It was always that J-rock stuff, like Asian Kung Fu Generation, like heavy distorted stuff, full martials, like awesome stuff like that. And then I don't know what happened. I got into Bon Iver. It was so weird. And that was like my first EP, Old News, when I got in, and I was getting into math rock at the time. I was into American football, Enemies. There was this Japanese band, Toe. They're really good too. A Picture of Her, TTNG, or This Town Needs Guns. Like a lot of that twinkly stuff, like with just weird polyrhythms and stuff. And I was just like into that. Then I read online, Bon Iver, he recorded his whole album with just an SM57. I was just like, shit, I can do that. Because that's all I had. That was literally all I had to record that EP. It was an SM57. I was looking for like a way to do it, and that was my way. So I was like skipping, and I didn't own any equipment at the time. Like secondary, I was going into sit form at the time. I didn't own any equipment, so I'd just skip my lunch and just record during the lunch breaks. I wouldn't eat anything the whole day because I just want to record these songs.
Yeah.
Then eventually I managed to get like an audio interface, and that's when the first Whitelands self-titled came out. It was a mishmash of whatever that album was. Some people like will comment on TikTok, they'll be like, yeah, I really love Nicotine. I really love those old songs. I'm just like, I actually never want to hear those songs again. Like Michael, like I'll be a guitarist, he'd be like, oh, when are we playing Nicotine? Or Jagger, and he'd be like, when are we playing those old songs? I just be like, never.
It's funny you say that because, obviously, the song Garden, right?
Yeah.
I was listening to that. I was thinking that, and I mean this with a great compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the older work, has such a Cure feel to me. Those first 30 seconds, I don't know if you listen to the Cure, but there's a song called Wish Impossible Things off the Wish album.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a lovely intro. And then it just kind of goes off the rails.
Mm.
All So since that album, if we want to get into the Whiteland stuff right now, you cringe at hearing some of that?
I actually do. It's very like lo-fi. I mean, for what it was, like I was like 17 recording that stuff. I had like nothing, so I was just like, yeah, I guess for what it was, it's like it's okay. But I feel like I've progressed so much as like a musician that I feel like my old work is just like, you know. But I publicly don't denounce it because there are people that do appreciate it, and I know how much that would suck for like an artist you'd like to be like, you know, that was my favorite song and he fucking hates it. It's so cool.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So why did you form this band? What were your objectives?
I don't know what it is actually. Why I did. I think sometimes some people get chosen to do a job and they're just not sure why. And they're just like, I just felt like a calling and it felt special. I think a lot of people like, not a lot of people, a lot of us in Whitelands feel the same way. We just don't know why we're here, but we're here. You know?
Yeah.
And there's this thing of like, not sure whether we want to be like great or famous or something, but it's like, it felt like a calling.
Well, maybe it's just the idea, the pure notion of you wanting to express yourself in a creative way.
I think so too. I think I did really want to be seen. I did want to like have myself there and just like connect with people. I think that was that because I really did suck at self-expression when I was younger. So I think seeing how many people can connect with it does like bring us joy. So
yeah,
I'm sure that's one part of it. I think there's definitely a spiritual like reason as well, but I'm not entirely sure how to like express it, you know, because like you're sitting in front of me on my computer, you're interviewing me, and it's like there's a reason why you're doing it. And is this something that you woke up one day and be like, I'm gonna do this? I'm sure there's some part of your brain that was like, I really want to do this. I don't know why, but it's pushing me to be here. And it's hard to form into words. It's like you do enjoy it. I'm sure you like enjoy it. But there's also another part that's like, I need to do this, you know?
Yeah. Fortunately,
yeah,
because I was a teacher for so many years, other than just educating my elementary school students, the idea of trying to understand their modes of thinking so I could best deliver curriculum that they could access based on whatever learning ability, not disability, ability they have. And so that led me down this path after I started teaching. I've always been interested in people, always. And then getting into this kind of new lane of a career. I absolutely thrive on it. I salivate because it's another means of expression for me. So anyways,
that's wonderful.
Thank you. Let's anchor down in Whitelands. And I'm going to do an activity with you. It's called Spin the Author's Wheel. On my screen, I'm going to spin a digital wheel, and it's going to land on an author. I'm going to read you a quote, and you respond, keeping in mind your work as a musician. Cool?
Okay.
All right, here we go. We land on, her name is Twyla Tharp of this book. She's actually a dance choreographer, and it's called The Creative Habit, Learn It and Use It for Life. It's a great kind of self-help book. I want to read this to you, and I can't wait for you to respond. In this chapter, she talks about perfectionism. This is what she says. Another trap is the belief that everything has to be perfect before you can take the next step. You won't move on to that second chapter until the first is written, rewritten, honed, tweaked, examined under a microscope, buffed to a bright mahogany sheen. You won't dip a brush in the paint until you've assembled all the colors you can possibly imagine using in your project. well, I know it's important to be prepared, but at the start of this, the type of perfectionism is more like procrastination, maybe. You just got to get in there and do. Perfectionism. Speak to it.
I think that's a really great quote there. I think as well with musicians as well, I think there's a lot of things that a lot of people end up falling into and they never do anything because they're like, I'm just not ready to release music. It doesn't sound good. I've been mixing this, yada, yada, yada. Where I think for them I think it's a lot of fear of being like seen and perceived by people and being embarrassed. I think because like when you do something as intimate as music is like you have to like put a bit of your soul in there, you know. I think that's probably why AI isn't catching on, you know, the AI music, no one wants that. There's nothing to latch onto, there's no rough edges. And they're really scared of their rough edges as well, or just not being like seen as this like ray of glimmer of like, you know, whatever. Because of that, they just never do anything. They just can't record the demo. They can't upload those tracks. They can't do anything. And until they get over that fear that they might be embarrassed, they might be humiliated, like it never gets anywhere. And people forget that even with music, it's like rough. It's very human, you know, it's one of those things like, I'm trying to think of a song, you know, like an artist that might say something like humiliating in a song. Like they might be broken up with and they're expressing that and they'll feel humiliated by being heartbroken, being cheated on or something like that. But people want to connect. They want to feel those human emotions. They want to like someone to relate to them. They want that imperfection. And that's part of the human experience that you can't be a human if you're perfect, you know? That's just an unreasonable expectation of someone to have.
So would you say since the inception of Whitelands,
Mm-hmm.
would you say your outlook, your perspective on perfectionism has diminished a bit because you realize, hey, I'm just human. I'm just doing what I can, and there's only so much I can do?
Of course. I think as someone like with ADHD, that's kind of like the big, you know, demon in my life. It's like one of those things where when things mess up, they really mess up. They can really go bad, or you might forget something. So to kind of overcompensate for this, you kind of want this control, like everything's planned to a T to make as little mistakes as possible. But mistakes are still going to be happening. You can't control everything. And that's something I kind of like as Whitelands has gone on, I'd have to be okay with mistakes happening and like forgiving myself for letting that happen, you know? Because like control really is like fear, you know, it's like fear of like being humiliated, embarrassed, and that's the kind of thing you just have to let go of it. And perfectionism is a form of control where, because when you release something out into the world, people are going to judge you for it. They're going to like, especially with something like intimacy. I can't remember where I read that quote from. It was like, intimacy is kind of a mirror. And when you put like yourself in a song, you're inviting intimacy with the listener and they're going to judge you for it. So when you try and put perfection behind it, where you're preventing intimacy from happening because they can't see any like the bad and the good or the vulnerable sides of you. So there's just this gap. And when there's less control, there's things that are just going to happen. It's like, it's human and it's like, it's what you need to connect.
So you have toured with some pretty big bands, yeah?
Yeah. Great bands.
Can you name a few, please?
Well, there's Slowdive.
Yep.
There's Laurel Meets the Obsolete. And we've done a few shows like festivals here and there. We did a show with High Vis in our head just the other day, like 4 days ago. And there was Bring Me the Body up in Scotland. Yeah, that was awesome. And who else? I think that's about it. All the biggest ones so far.
Well, let me tell you why I brought that up. And sticking with this theme of perfectionism, when you found out that you were going to be on tour with these bigger bands, if you will, did that kick in your need to be a little bit more on the nose, a little bit more spot on with your live performance
I
because of
think,
that pressure?
yeah, we really had to like kind of kick into gear because
Yeah.
like the whole band, we all have ADHD, and like one person's hard enough, but the entire band is like, oh, things are gonna go wrong. So we're really like trying to like clamp down on like things going wrong. So we had to try and make things work because when you have an opportunity like that, you don't want to like mess it up. But I think just the human part of us at some point was just like giving up on trying to be too perfect, you know?
Yeah.
There's things you can control, and there's things you can. If you can control it, then fair enough. But if you can't, just like fuck it, you know? Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a very personal question.
hmm
Just speak for yourself, not for your other bandmates.
hmm
So I used to work with many students who had ADHD
hmm
or ADD,
hmm
and receiving that diagnosis from a doctor
hmm
changed the entire academic experience for them, for better or for worse.
hmm
So let me ask you this, Etienne. In the different branches of ADHD with inattentiveness, hyperactivity, kind of,
hmm
and being impulsive, if you will, where do you fall in that one of those categories?
Well, when I was younger, I was more the hyperactive type, but as I'm going older, it's more the inattentive type.
Okay. So my next question is, how does that affect the way that you go about your business in Whitelands in a negative way?
In the negative ways. I guess in the negative way, I would kind of like not pay attention to detail and like I'd mess up or not plan. Like that was when I was kind of like younger, or I'd be late everywhere, or I'd be really bad with money. That's one of the things. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of had to like try and overcompensate for it, you know, just to make things are like very organized because we're in the stage where like little mistakes can add up and it can end up costing a lot if I'm like not careful with things, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I if we don't if I leave something at home, we'd have to get a replacement when we're out if it's something important, like for a show, or if I forget something else, something like somewhere, it means we'll have to pay for it. So it's like I'd have to. I'm kind of quite hard on myself because we don't have like managers or anything like that. It's just us four, and like we have to make things work, you know, because the industry's cutthroat. You know, a bad gig gets around or whatever. So you just have to do what you can and just keep pushing. But I've been like quite on the ball recently. I've been working quite hard to make sure things are like running smoothly, have things labeled, things in the correct place, things, you know, because I don't have medication at the moment. Like, yeah.
I was going to ask you that next question. What kind of intervention or treatment that you have been prescribed or you kind of subscribe to that has helped you?
So medication really did help, but at the time I did get it, there was a national shortage of medication. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. And so basically the government weren't storing the medication properly. Well, not the government, well, a company, they weren't storing it properly. And it just like expired or went off. And then there was an influx of people getting diagnosed and then they got prescribed that medication. So the government's like, cool, where's the medication? They're like, oh, expired 2 months ago. So now you have this like a little gap where it's 2 months and only one company at a time can hold a license for medication. So no other like company can make that one. So you're missing that medication. All the other companies, they're not built to deal with that influx of like, we have to fill this gap of 2 months missing medication. It just spiraled over and over. And like now no one has medication. It's just awful. And it's been like 2 years now. It's awful. But yeah, medications really like help. Like it really keeps me sharp. And it really like all the difficult things, I can get them done within like the first like 3 hours of me waking up. Then I have a whole day to do nothing. But if not, I have like, well, it's like going on to the next stage, is overflowing.
All right. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to imagine you're in my classroom. The rest of the students are working on a project. We're listening to some music. We got some Brian Eno on. Everything's chill.
Mm-hmm.
I get some one-on-one time with my students. We do a check-in. I bring you over to my desk and I ask you this question and I say, how are you doing? And you say, oh, I'm not doing so well, Mr. Frederick. And I say, why? I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
having a hard time keeping organized with my materials, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And then you start crying.
Mm.
And I say, why are you crying? And you say, quietly, because you don't want all the other kids to hear, you say, Mr. Frederick, I don't like that I have ADHD.
Mm.
And I say to you, oh my God, what a gift that is. And
Mm.
you look at me and say, a gift?
Mm.
How is that a gift? And I'd say, don't you know? So I'm going to ask you this question. How has ADHD helped you in any way in being a musician? Because it is, and again, I'm talking from experience of working with a lot of children.
Mm-hmm.
It is deemed as a negative
Mm.
behavior, and I understand why.
Mm.
But I used to try to flip it with my students and say, but what are the gifts that have brought you, that you have received from this?
Mm.
So,
Guess
yeah, tell the listeners.
so. I guess it really does help me with like kind of like thinking outside the box and like doing things creatively, because my brain is like working really hard to try and like connect dots and make things happen. So I guess that's like one of the positives of it, you know. And I think with a lot of neurodivergent people, they tend
Yep.
to attract and have a lot of other friends that are also neurodivergent. And it's a nice thing, you know, you build a community of like-minded people, like people that really get you and see you. And I think it's beautiful. It's like being the color purple, and then one day you see someone else that's the color purple, you know, and you just get them, they get you. I think it's a really beautiful thing.
There's an expression here in America. It might be where you are too. It's called "they're my jam." Have you heard that? Yeah, and so you're with your peeps, right?
Yeah, you know, like
So
people that get
it
you.
builds empathy.
Mm.
And I think you nailed it right there. So if you ever become a school teacher, I want you to ask your students that question.
That would be fun. Of course.
Because
I
I
mean,
think it is deemed such a negative thing in our society.
mm,
But yes, it definitely has, it inhibits people from doing what they want to do sometimes. But
mm,
God, you nailed it there by saying it has allowed you to think outside the box. Hell yeah. That
mm,
probably makes you a very interesting person from the get-go.
you know? And like, I wish I had a teacher like you when I was younger, because a lot of my teachers, they thought like I was just very lazy, you know? And so I actually did not get any help for ADHD. I knew I had it since I was like 15 years old, but I didn't get any help for it since I was like 22.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
And funnily enough as well, it's like when I finished my bachelor in arts, I kind of got into coding and I started teaching myself like just how to do it. And I managed to land an internship with that. And it was under this like underneath my degree, and I was literally building things in Unreal Engine and Max MSPs, and it was to build a visual kind of a new DAW but in virtual reality. And I had to learn Unreal Engine and another software. Both are very hard to do. And I managed to teach myself that. But because of my ADHD, I just could not get into it. I just could not be what they needed, you know?
Yeah.
Because like going from like university straight into a 9 to 5, I was just like, what am I doing? So I just kind of kept fucking up with it. It was awful. And then at that point, I was just like, I had such a brilliant opportunity and I kind of messed it up. I was getting paid for this.
Yep.
And I want to know why, because like I'm capable enough to stay up nights to teach myself coding, but I'm in a job doing it and I just can't do it. And it's like, that makes no sense, you know? And that was like at the time of like still writing the album and still working. I still managed to fit that in, and it's like, it's weird. So that's when I was just like, okay, I need to probably get sorted out, which is, yeah, it was very helpful for my self-esteem to just kind of like put things in perspective that like made a lot of my childhood make a lot of sense, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, for being vulnerable. I appreciate it.
No, anytime. It's okay.
With regards to Whiteland's music, is there a song or two that you can think of that best represents your ADHD?
That one's Chosen Light.
Tell us more.
It was kind of just talking about how like this thing of like I could be something very great if I was just embraced for who I am instead of like being forced to what I am not, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not someone who can sit down and study. Well, I am now. Cause I'm doing my master's in engineering at the moment. And I think a lot of like, if I've just been actually properly sat down and like talked to properly, I could probably have gone a lot further in life than I am now instead of kind of like being berated for it, you know? Like, I think I would have been happier. My mental health would have been a lot better. Like like I would get punished by a lot of teachers for it. Like when I was 16 or 17 or so, I'd have to like stand outside the like teacher's lounge all break, all lunch because like of like just my inattentiveness and stuff like that and just like not doing homework, that kind of thing. And I was just like, I really could have been treated differently, you know?
That must have sucked.
Oh, it was awful.
How
Thing is,
humiliating.
I know, right? So like I'd be at the bottom of the stairs and I'll see all the kids coming by and they all go for lunch and they all see me. I was really being made an example of, you know, it's crazy. And by the time my teacher would remember that I was actually there to like send me off to lunch, and like I'd go for lunch and there'd be like nothing there to eat. So I couldn't like go days without eating pretty much at school.
Was your mom made aware of this?
I guess I kind of forgot to tell her because like when that kind of stuff happens enough, you generally believe that it's your fault. So it feels like an appropriate punishment, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also herself, she was busy with work and like things like that. So it's like having a single mom raising you and all that, it's like you don't get time for like that talk, that emotional stuff. So it's just like it kind of slipped under the radar.
Let's spin the wheel again, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
Here we go. Timmy B, Tim Burgess.
Track.
So, for all the listeners out there, I'm holding a book in my hand called Tim Burgess, The Listening Party. Artists, bands, and fans reflect on 100 favorite albums. One of the reasons why I'm sitting here behind a microphone is because of this gentleman. He started these listening parties during COVID lockdown on Twitter, now X. And for a lot of people, it was a great way to stay in touch with people that are like-minded of the same music and learn more about albums. That meant a great deal to them because he was able to get in special guests on there to talk about these albums during these listening parties. And so I'm going to read something to you. Here we go. Same thing. Respond however you like. There's a gentleman who does the foreword in the book, Pete Papafio, and he says this: the bottom line, there's just something about roughly a dozen songs lovingly sequenced by their creator, all further unified by title and artwork, that just works. It worked 50 years ago when the prohibitive cost of albums would lead people to gather in the bedroom of friends who happened to own one. And it still worked when vinyl, the software for which the album was invented, looked like it was about to become obsolete. It worked so well that in the end, we didn't allow it to become obsolete. In the age of streaming, there's nothing to stop an album being 5 hours long. But, like I said, there's just something about a dozen or so songs.
That's great.
It is. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's quite beautiful, like how communities can come together, like especially like something like shoegaze, just to appreciate it. Like even though we were kind of like ignored by most of like mass media, you know, the big ones, like there's this big community that were putting us on the like top 5 albums, top 10 albums of 2024, and it's like made a real impact in just the community by people that really cared, and it felt beautiful to see that, you know?
Sure do.
It was lovely. Like shoegaze memes were like, can't remember what number we were, 3 or something, 3, 4. like top 10 albums. And like even today I posted like a little thread on Reddit and all these people were just commenting, just being like, hey, we really love you guys. You know, you guys are awesome. I've listened to you guys 30 times today.
That's
And, like,
amazing.
it's incredible, isn't it? And you really feel that like there's a lot of love for it. And that's why like I put so much like care into the songs. Like we could have like any old artwork or something like that, but I want to spend the time on it because, you know, when you care about something, you can tell by other people. Like when someone cares about something, you can tell when they do, you know, you can feel it from them. Like there's a passion there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's something that can't really be faked, you know, like drive, passion, and like actual like love for something. Yeah.
When you were making Nightbound Eyes are Blind to the Day
Mm-hmm.
and the release of that album, 2024,
Mm-hmm.
take us back to that day when it was actually released. Tell us your feelings. I want to know what that was like.
So I think we were, what was it? I think it was like the day before our last ever show with Slowdive, or maybe the day after. I can't remember. But yeah, we were just on tour. And I remember Neil was wearing one of our shirts, posting on Instagram. It was really sweet of him to do that. Everyone in Slowdive has been just so wonderful. And it's kind of like when we first started the tour, we didn't expect people to come early for us. But like over time, like as the tour was going on, there were people that come in, we'd see it 7 p.m. at the doors is lined straight outside. Everybody's just there. The room is full of people, like they're waiting, they're ready to hear us. So I don't know how that spread around, like whether it was word of mouth or something like that, but it's like they wanted to hear us and it was just awesome. For like, it made us feel like we were the headliners for a second, you know, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And that release day, it really felt like our day, you know, it's like, it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. We were seeing so much love and there were people, they were taking their photos with it. They were posting it. They're like, it's my 10th listen. And they'd come outside to take photos with us. They make us sign the records. It was so, so nice. It's just such a beautiful community. And I think it's like having just not your work appreciated, but just your hard work and like you as a person, just like people just welcomed us with open arms. And it's just beautiful. Yeah, it was great.
And the pressing of vinyl, how do you feel about that?
The vinyl, yeah, that was awesome. I've never actually seen my like any songs I've ever had like on a vinyl. It was crazy. Like I've only owned two vinyl in my life, and that was like the second one like I've ever owned. But it was so cool. It was like I think we managed to see it for the first time like in January, and we pulled out. It was like the gold record. I think
Yeah.
we're doing like a radio show with like get the radio station Get in Her Ears, and we like Nat came and he gave us all the records. Debbie was there and we all pulled it out and we took a photo with it. It was awesome. It's really cool. The vinyl is awesome as well. I think it's done like we probably aren't getting as many streams on Spotify because everybody's listening to it on the vinyl now. So I think when promoters are trying to book us, they're like, it doesn't look very high. It's like, no, I promise it is. They're just on the vinyl, you know?
I've got two words for you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sonic Cathedral.
Love that place. Brilliant label.
Yeah, tell the listeners about this label.
Sonic Cathedral is actually we actually got an offer from a label just before that, State 51. When I was like in 19, I was like first or second year at the time. And we got a record label contract. And it was just me at the Jagan at the time. And I just looked there and I had no fucking clue what they wanted from us.
Uh-huh.
It was like 10 pages thick. There'll be clauses here, a clause there, clause there. We're flipping through it. I remember going to my the lawyer kind of like teacher, and I was just like, what do I do with this? And he kind of wrote simply. Then I forgot about it because I think it was just so scary to me that I was just like, I don't think I'm ready for this. So we just kind of like forgot about it. And then Nat, like I actually emailed Nat because I was listening to a few songs. I was listening to Bedroom at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I saw a lot of like the releases for it. I saw like Sonic Cathedral, like releasing Slow Dive, like Golden Hair. I was just like, while still having my favorite band, maybe I should just give it a try because a lot of the record labels I contacted kind of like ignored us or didn't really want to have anything to do with us. I think I was around 22 at the time, and we recorded How It Feels. And there was a shoegaze dream pop, like a Facebook group. And I was looking back and I just like had the thought to search my name, and it was like posts like spanning like years back, and there were people here and there be like, someone was literally like, damn, I wish these guys dropped music again. And that was literally the time we were dropping Hard Feels. We were just like, okay, cool, we got a song out next week. And he was like, yay. So we emailed Nat that song. We're just like, hi, we're kind of like a shoegazy dream pop band. Here's our song, hope you like it. And Nat was like, wow, you guys really didn't sell yourself there to us. But he took a chance on us, and we're like super appreciative of him at the time. Like at the time where everybody was like kind of like ignoring us, it was awesome of him to do that. And he really took a chance with us, which was sweet.
All right, well, check this out, my friend. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Dot Allison, Emma Anderson, Bedroom, Andy Bell from Ride, Deary, Dummy, Mildred Maud, of course, Molly, Mark Peters, Not Me But Us, Three Quarter Skies with Simon Scott, Dean Wareham of Luna, Topography is a Bay Area band, and of course you guys. Jesus. That is one hell of a lineup. Right?
Yeah, very, very talented musicians out there.
Yeah, do you pinch yourself going, holy crap?
Yeah, sometimes I'm just like, what? I still can't believe sometimes that Nat took a chance on us, but it's awesome. Like, Andy and Emma, they're both such sweet, lovely, and warm people, We've had the chance to just be, like, introduced to them. I haven't had much time with Emma, I see her here and there, but she's always very lovely when I speak to her. And Andy too, but Andy's a very popular man. If you're lucky enough to get 2 seconds with him, you better appreciate it, because, like, every time we've seen him, he's just been surrounded by people, but he always makes the effort to, like, try and speak to people when he can before he gets, like, whisked away by someone else,
Yeah.
He's a very lovely guy. And, Mark Peters as well. Like, he's on the label too. He's awesome. We did a show with him and Laurel and the White Castle in Manchester. Really awesome guy. I think he's listening to a lot of, what's that, Flawed Mangoes recently. I think he's been really into that artist. He kind of come from TikTok. Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's great with the guitar too.
Yes, he is.
He can really, like, weave a world. And really and truly, I have not been listening to much music, like, for a few years now, I rarely keep up with it. But there's a lot of, like, really powerful, like, amazing bands on there, especially, like, Three Quarter Skies, too. At the time, I was meant to have, like, a little feature song with him, but I just didn't have the time. I'm so annoyed that, like, time was running away from him. I'll ask Simon when I next see him. I was just like, I want to feature a track, Yeah.
And your working relationship with Nat, tell the listeners about who Nat is.
Nat is an awesome guy. I think he's, like, someone who's very passionate about music and shoegaze, and is someone that's, like, he's not looking for, like, something that's just, like, whatever, very cookie cutter. He wants something different. He wants something that can, like, come out of left field. He has a really great ear for music.
He does.
And he's someone who really tries, Is like, he's also like a family man, which is, like, something I really, like, look up to him for, because, in this age of rock and roll, like, people are very not, like, it's nice to be someone that can be there and care about, like, the people around you. It's like, it's a very admirable thing to have in a man. And I think he's very, like, he's more like the personality of a teddy bear, he's very sweet, he can be quite shy, like, sometimes, but I think that goes for everybody in shoegaze, But he's a very sweet, like, awesome guy, and, like, I've just not heard a bad word about him. He's awesome. And he cares, and that's something that's important to have,
Yeah. In my conversation with him, everything that you're saying is absolutely spot on. I love how soft-spoken he is. You really have to lean in and what he says, I just love the authenticity. I embrace that.
Mm.
Well, congratulations for being on that label. And is there a song from Nightbound Eyes that you would like for the listeners to listen to right now?
I think maybe The Prophet and I think that was like one of the first ones that everybody was like kind of on, you know, it's a very special song to us. And Jagan's quite mad that it didn't get as big as it did. Because
Okay.
he says that one's like the best on Nightbound Eyes. I do agree. I think The Prophet and I was like one of our like it was a great song. So probably that one.
Well, let's take a listen to The Prophet and I. This is track number 2 from the album Night Bound Eyes Are Blind to the Day by Whitelands.
Whatever you want is whatever I say and need, and embrace with your eyes closed. Intertwined in such a sweet mood, interest by the side, illuminated by the sea, is deep in the moment, is doing blood.
Okay. So after this listen, what do you think of that song? You still digging it? You still loving it?
Yeah, definitely. Playing it live is always just so fun.
I bet.
It's like it's kind of like a proto Amen break in there, kind of like jungly. Really
Yeah.
cool. I was listening to a lot of that at the time, like when we were recording. And there's this other artist, Umbrella from Prague. Well, he does it like he's really pushing shoegaze forward. He's got lots of electronic stuff in there. He's making something new. You don't really see that with shoegaze where someone's like, you know, not just whatever. It's just like this has to be more, you know? There has to be a way to push a genre forward. And I think he's really trying to do that. And I think it's paying off for him because he's going to be in South by Southwest, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you get the chance, definitely go check like Sunbrella out.
So with the construction of The Prophet and I,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of working out the melodies, working out the verse and, you know, all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
did this song come naturally for the band, or was this a song that you guys just gutted and sweated through and really worked hard at?
Usually with songs, because like I do the lyrics, I
Yeah.
try and like have a structure first, you know, so I kind of like structure it out first to try and like get a feel for it. Because if I can't get it right the first time, the lyrics just do not come to my head. But when I did that, I didn't really sweat through it. It really came naturally.
Okay.
Like after reading the book, because it's based on the Prophet by Khalil Gibran,
Yeah.
and yeah, it just kind of came quite naturally, like literally to everyone. Everyone just had the idea like straight away, and it just came apart, like came together so easily. Mm-hmm.
In relation to the other songs,
Mm-hmm.
Chosen Light, Born in Understanding,
Mm.
do you find any themes emerging?
Themes. I think there's like a motif of light and sky and like bigness to a lot of the songs. Because I remember I wrote Born in Understanding once about 19, and I just, that, you know, that little bit just before that last chorus, I could not get it. I just did not know what was missing from it. So it literally did not get finished till like about 2 years later because I just couldn't figure it out.
Wow.
Because sometimes like when you have it, and like that bit is like without it, that last chorus would not like hit the way it does, you know? And sometimes a song needs time, you know? It's
Yep.
like, and I was quite young at the time. Like I didn't know anything about the world. So I need to grow to be able to like have that song. And I think that's what's happening a lot of the time now. It's like I just need to go through things before the song can come to mind. And
That goes back to perfectionism. Like, you're willing to let it sit on the mantle
mm,
and come back at it later, where some people would be like, I need to have that chorus. I need to have that middle eight work now.
mm.
But it sounds like you have a very mature outlook about it.
So sometimes that's all it is with life. You just have to wait, you know.
Yeah.
I read this, well, watched. So I think one of the Conan like writers, he did like a little skit, and it's called How to Lose Weight in 10 Easy Steps. No, I think it was 3. No, I think it was 10 actually. I can't quite remember. And there's this quote that's always stuck with me, and it's like, change takes time, and time is all it takes. It's a really beautiful quote, and it's like applied so much with my life. And it's like, sometimes time is literally all that it takes to change or to make things happen. And if you've done all you can,
Yep.
and there's nothing more you can do, then waiting is the thing you can do,
Sure.
you know? And you just have to let it sit there. And I think that's fine because, you know, I'm myself. I'll write another song. But if the song isn't getting served the way it should be, I'm not going to force it because that will come out with some regrets.
How important was it in the arrangement of these songs 1 through 8? Did you guys spend a lot of time sequencing?
No, we kind of did it in a day. We just texted like WhatsApp. Someone will give a suggestion for it. And so
Yeah.
I'll be like, no, I think da 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 da. Or someone will be like, maybe we can switch these two around. I think Dragon he had a lot of the good like sequential order for it as well. But we're all agreed kind of like the best track should be track 2, which will be Prophet and I. And then kind of like the darker songs will be on like the B side, you know, that kind of thing. So it kind of like catches your attention. And after a while where you've sat down with it, you can appreciate the longer, you know, more intimate songs, you know?
Do you mind real quickly, just, I know they're not here with us, but introducing the band?
Oh, so I guess I'll start in order of when they joined. So Jagan is our drummer, Vanessa is our bassist, and Michael is our lead guitarist. Oh, I've introduced myself already, haven't I? Yeah.
Anything else you want to share about this album that I haven't asked you or brought up?
Not too sure. We've talked about, it's funny because like I've talked about it in such length for the like nearly the past like year, and then after a while I just have no idea what more is there to talk about, you know? I guess it wasn't I don't know. I think it's just been like I've just talked myself out complete out of all the new information that my brain's like, you can let this album go now, you know? It's that kind of thing.
Well, it's a hell of an album, and I know you the band received amazing verbal accolades from critics.
Thank you.
And I know, you know, you could see people online really embracing and cheering it on. Radio stations, Big Sonic, Heaven Radio, DKF, really getting behind the band. And here are some of those stellar reviews. Hugh Baines, NME, writes, Whiteland's Nightbound Eyes Are Blind to the Day is one of those gauzy meditative shoegaze records that could easily prompt you to stare into space, jaw increasingly slack as it washes over you. So every now and again, the London Quartet offers a sharp jab in the ribs with a surprising melody, unexpected texture to make sure we are still paying attention. Static Sounds Club writes, Whitelands have crafted a sonic experience that ticks every box on a shoegazer's shopping list. Dig deeper, though, and you have lyrics of depth and real meaning. Delivered with a literary flair, there's so much more to discover in the headphones. The production is top-notch, with a consistency and cohesion across all the tracks. It's no wonder Slowdive asked the band to support them on recent dates. And supporting you all, and I'm sure there's loads more, but yeah, it's hopefully you guys are very proud of it.
Thank you. I think we are. We really just left that record. We're doing a second one too, and which like will take some time, but we're happy to like finally get this out there.
So before we wrap up the interview, could you tell the listeners what is coming down the line for you all in 2025? What can you share?
So I think for 2025, Well, we'll be going to Ireland for the first time this summer. That'd be really cool. And I think we're just trying to, be ready for those big stages, like perform for like thousands of people. Like, we've already had like our little taste of it with Slow Dive, but now it's like the thing of like standing on our own 2 feet with these stages. So it's just, we're really pushing forward, just progress beyond like I think everywhere, a lot of people want to see like, was it just a fluke, the first one? Is there something greater coming? And Marshall, Amps, and they've been really great with us. They've been giving us like a lot of gear. They're really great people there. And the Epiphone too. So it's kind of like we have all the backing behind us. Now we just need to, do the dance. But for 2025, I think some new music, things about an album, maybe the year after, but the things that will be coming. Maybe America will see us too.
Ooh, I was going to get to that question. Any
But-
traveling abroad here?
We're just trying it out like here because like visas are so expensive to get
Yeah.
over there. It's like 10,000 or something. Not really sure. Like, and also to have like a crew with us, and with how like I don't think people realize how big the States is compared to
Right.
the UK. Like even just the whole UK, it could be like hours just traveling the entire of America. Like that's huge. That's like 5, 15, 40 UKs, it's like, fuck, can we do that all?
Right.
And we don't want to disappoint people. So if we're touring the UK, the US, we have to tour the whole US, And then if you're in the US, someone's going to be like, you might as well come to Canada. Then you go to Canada, you might as well go to Mexico, you go to Mexico. And then also will be like, oh, you might as well come to Japan. It's right around the corner. So it's just a lot, but we'll try and make it work. We'll try and do what we can. It'll be nice to get like an invite to like South by Southwest or something. It'll just make it easier,
Is that a nice dream of yours?
Honestly, it's not like I have lots of dreams. It would be something that would be crazy cool. I always wanted to play like Pitchfork as well, but like that's closing down. They're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Because one of the concerts I was always watching as well was the Pitchfork one. And I think they did When the Sun Hits, did they? Yeah, I do remember that one. Like it was Pitchfork. Was it 2017, 2019?
So Etienne, I want you to tell the listeners, just for some fun here,
Mhm.
you seem like a big cinema kind of person, yeah?
Mm.
Tell the listeners 5 films that you really love.
So my 5 films I really like. One that I watched really recently was Interstellar. A lot of people. It's so good, isn't it?
Me
Like-
too.
But when like a film is like everybody talks about how good it is, you're like, bullshit, it can't be that good. Then you just never watch it. That was Interstellar for me. But one day, like it was the anniversary of it, and I was just like, let me give this a chance. So I put on my speakers, I put it on, and it was gorgeous. There's so much love in this film that you could just feel it through the screen, And it was at a time that I was like, I was kind of like at war with myself, So I was just trying to like figure out where to go. And I think it's one of those films that kind of like helped open up that door,
Yeah.
Yeah. And another good one is Summer of Soul. Is this one I watched in the cinema with like an ex of mine. Really, really, really good film. It's like about this like kind of funk festival in America. I don't know if it was like Memphis or somewhere, but it was so good.
Is that the one Questlove directed?
Yes, that's the one. Such a gorgeous film. It's so beautiful. And like just like as a musician as well, I just really connected to it. It really made me cry.
Yeah.
And what's this other one? There's Ex Machina, really good film too. So mindfucky, trippy. Really
We're
like
here though, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, not for much longer. The AI is going to rise up. We have to be careful of that. And there's In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. Of our singles on our upcoming albums based off of that movie. So that'll be really fun. We've done like a bit of snippet stuff out on Instagram about that song.
All right. Where can people check out your music?
We have 6 shirts for Setting Sun available. And they're going to help with our new album. We're on Spotify. And in person. Check us out in person. I mean, you'd have to fly, but check us out in person.
Okay. All righty. This has been a real pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been amazing talking to you. It's a really fun interview.
You're quite welcome. And much continued success. And with regards to your ADHD and learning about you, I definitely see more positives than negatives.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And I
Helps
love
to get a teacher.
how I love how self-aware you are. You're a very reflective person. You seem very in tune with what's going on up here.
I had to be.
My name is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of this podcast feature known as Surprise Cast. And remember, everyone, great music is all around us. I guess you just have to keep your ears open. Ciao.